Members, if the Senate could please come to order. Mr. Secretary, will you call the roll?
Alquist, Anderson, Berryhill, Blakesley, Calderon, Canella, Corbett, Correa, De Leon, DeSaulnier, Dutton, Emerson, Evans, Fuller, Gaines, Hancock, Harmon, Hernandez, Huff, Kehoe, LaMalfa, Leno, Ted Lieu, Carol Liu, Lowenthal, Negrete McLeod, Padilla, Pavley, Price, Rubio, Runner, Semidian, Steinberg, Strickland, Vargas, Walters, Wolk, Wright, Weiland, Yee.
The absence of a quorum having been duly noted, the Sergeant-at-Arms is asked to lock the doors and please call the absent members. Will the Sergeant-at-Arms please call the absent members? Quorum has been established. If we could ask members to take their desks. Could we also ask that members and our guests beyond the rail and in the gallery please rise? We will be led in prayer this afternoon by our chaplain, Rabbi Mona Alfi, after which we ask that you please remain standing. We will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag by Senator Elaine Alquist. Rabbi?
Good afternoon. O holy and loving God, we pray for the well-being of our state and all who serve it. May the actions of those who lead us be guided with wisdom and compassion, for in their hands is a sacred trust. May the Holy One bring blessings and well-being, a sense of peace and security to the lives of all people. May this be God's will. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you, Senator Alquist. Members, that brings us to privileges of the floor. Privileges of the floor. Do we have any members under privileges of the floor? Senator Walters at Senator Steinberg's desk. Members?
Thank you, Mr. Pro Tem.
One moment, please. We need to both bring the House to order. and ask if there is any objection to a photographer on the floor. Seeing and hearing none. Senator Walters.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. I have a group coming up here.
For what purpose do you rise, Senator?
Privileges of the floor.
Please proceed.
Today I would like to introduce Department of Fish and Game Director Chuck Bonham and Chief of Enforcement Nancy Foley, who are joining me in honoring 3 wardens with the Department of Fish and Game: Jerry Carnow, Paul Cardoza, and Warden Cardoza's K-9 partner, Kilo. Right there, Kilo. In 2011, Warden Jerry Carnow was inducted into the California's Outdoors Hall of Fame for his efforts in apprehending serious poachers and teaching conservation to thousands of people throughout California. As a game warden for 22 years, he has diligently protected California's environment from habitat destruction, water pollution, intentional poisoning of wild animals, and poaching of wildlife. Earlier this month, Game Warden Paul Cardoza was named the Department of Fish and Game 2011 Officer of the Year. He and his K-9 partner, Kilo, have proven themselves time and again on a number of poaching and general law enforcement cases. They are both known for their extremely high-energy personalities, and their tireless pursuit of poachers is well respected by their law enforcement peers both in and outside of DFG. In addition to their patrol responsibilities, Wardens Carnow and Cardoza are also instructors who train cadet and officers for various law enforcement agencies throughout the state. Please join me, Director Bonham, and Chief Foley in welcoming and congratulating Warden Jerry Carnow and Warden Paul Cardoza, along with his K-9 partner, Kilo.
Let me add the formal welcome and congratulations on behalf of the State Senate. And before we proceed with privileges of the floor, I believe I see our former colleague from the State Assembly, Jan Goldsmith, in the rear of the chambers. Assembly member, are you there? And could you give us a wave? Thank you very much. Nice to see you here in the chambers again. Members, do we have other items under privileges of the floor? Senator Price, are you prepared to take your item up under privileges of the floor at Senator Steinberg's desk?
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, we're flying the flag of the Republic of Kenya at the podium this morning in honor of some distinguished guests back at the chambers. It's my privilege to introduce a delegation of 8 members and 2 staff from the Parliamentary Service Commission of the National Assembly of Kenya. The group is led by the Honorable Aden Kenyon, Vice Chairman of the Commission, which is an entity responsible for the management, administration, and provision of services and facilities to members of Parliament and staff of the Assembly. As a result of Kenya's new 2010 Constitution, the Kenyan National Parliament is transitioning from a unicameral to a bicameral body and reintroducing the Kenyan Senate. In anticipation of this historic shift, the Commission members are visiting our capital to learn more about the structure, security, human resources, and intergovernmental relations of the California Senate. The delegation is accompanied by our local Kenyan representative, the Honorable Ambassador Orenga, Consul General of Kenya in Los Angeles. Please join me in extending a warm welcome and best wishes to a productive visit to our guests from Kenya.
Thank you, Senator Price, and we of course add the welcome and best wishes from every member of the Senate. Delighted that the delegation has chosen to honor us with a visit to the Senate floor. Members, I believe we have 1 or 2 other items under privileges of the floor. Let me look to other members and see if Senator Berryhill, Senator Berryhill, do you have items under privileges of the floor today, sir? All right. Senator Cannella, do you have items under privileges of the floor today, sir? For purpose of announcement. Thank you, Senator.
Yes. California Agricultural Day is this Wednesday. Everybody is invited to take part in the festivities. It's on March 21st on the west side of the Capitol, starting at 10:30 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Senator Vargas, for what purpose do you rise, sir?
Introduction.
One moment, please, Senator Vargas. Let's let our guests at the rear of the chambers take a moment to exit. We'll ask the Sergeant at Arms to help us clear and quiet the area at the rear of the chambers, if they could, please. Senator Vargas, for what purpose do you rise?
Introduction, just to welcome.
Please proceed.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I just wanted to welcome Halecrest Elementary School, the fourth graders from Chula Vista Elementary School District, to our chamber. Thank you, Mr. President.
We join you in welcoming them. Thank you. Senator Correa, for what purpose do you rise, sir?
For purposes of introduction,
For purpose of introduction, please.
I'd like to have the body help me welcome Mr. Nick Berardino, head of the Orange County Employees Association. He's here with us in the back of the floor, as well as my son Alex, who's on break. If you can please help me welcome them.
All right. Thank you very much. Senator Price, for what purpose do you rise, sir?
Purposes of introduction.
Please proceed, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members, again, please join me in welcoming my guests from the California Black Lawyers Association in the gallery. Today, the California Association of Black Lawyers represents over 6,000 African-American attorneys, judges, law professors, and law students. Its mission is to promote reform in the laws and the administration of justice as we continue our quest for equality and empowerment. Please welcome our guests in the gallery.
Thank you very much. We welcome your guests. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. Members, do we have any other items under privileges of the floor? We are at privileges of the floor. If not, we will proceed to messages from the governor, which will be deemed read, messages from the Assembly, which will be deemed read, reports of committees, which will be deemed read, and amendments adopted without objection. That brings us to motions and resolutions. Do we have any items at this time under motions and resolutions? If not, we'll move on to the introductions and first reading of bills. Mr. Secretary, please read.
Senate Bill 1577 by the Committee on Natural Resources and Water, enacting to public trust lands.
Members, we are at the daily file, consideration of the daily file. Senator Steinberg, I see we have one item under governor's appointments. Are you prepared to take that item up at this time?
Yes, I am, Mr. President. This may take a few moments. I ask all the members to be seated, please.
Thanks. Members, I gather, Senator Steinberg, that this is a somewhat detailed presentation as a matter of necessity.
Yep.
And for that reason, I would ask members to please take their seats and give the pro tem their full attention.
Thank you very much.
One moment, Senator Steinberg.
Of
I
course.
apologize, but I'd like to ask members to take their seats if they possibly can.
It's fine.
Members, if you could take your seats, please, if you possibly can, and give the pro tem your full attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President, and I appreciate the members' courtesy here. This has been a controversial appointment, and more importantly, it has been a controversial department. This is the confirmation of David S. Baldwin as the State Director and California Adjutant General of the Military Department. Both in the Rules Committee when this was heard on the 15th of February and since, I know that most of the members have received numerous emails, office contacts, some in support, but many expressing concern about General Baldwin's confirmation. Most, if not all, of the concerns have been raised relate to much of the historical problems with the department and are not specific to General Baldwin, other than the fact that he is now atop the chain of command. The general himself, for those of you who didn't follow the 5-hour Rules Committee hearing, has a decorated history of military service. He's been awarded 3 Bronze Stars, the Meritorious Service Medal, the Combat Action Badge, and the Legion of Merit, among others. He's a graduate of Stanford, USC, and the U.S. Army War College. He has spent his career at the California National Guard and risen through the ranks. He has also served 2 tours of duty in Afghanistan, including one as the Deputy Commanding Officer. The Rules Committee approved General Baldwin on a 5-0 vote. There was a significant amount of support, and there was also a significant amount of opposition. I know that my staff, the members of the committee themselves, and I personally held several meetings with the General and others who are opposed to his confirmation, discussing the issues that have been raised. So at the outset of the hearing, I posed this question: do I, as one member and as chair of the committee, have reasonable confidence that under General Baldwin's leadership, the California National Guard will clean up its mess and inspire confidence? After all the testimony, all the emails, all the concerns raised, my answer to that question remains yes. Here's why. First, upon his appointment by the governor, the general made some tough but vital decisions. He began by terminating or reassigning 12 of the 13 generals who were in charge during the time that costly and embarrassing scandals plagued the Guard. Those included top officers who double-dipped, state and federal pay illegally, including his predecessor, General William Wade. The top officer in charge of a recruitment scandal in which employees received unwarranted recruitment bonuses with little or no oversight was removed. The system lapses have in fact been remedied. A dozen other staff at the Fresno Fighter Wing were disciplined for also taking excess pay, known as sleep pay, in a scandal brought to light by the Sacramento Bee. In both cases, the department is recouping these overpayments. During the hearing, we also examined issues related to the alleged abuse of a hiring system known as state active duty, a legal designation that serves important functions but avoids the civil service system. General Baldwin has submitted proposed legislation to fix it, and our Veterans Committee, chaired by Senator Correa, will be looking at that. We looked into the allegations that General Baldwin failed to properly report missing firearms in 2009. He did acknowledge, in fact, some procedural flaws and responsibility, but a separate federal investigation of the incident found that it was accidental and that there was no intentional wrongdoing. Finally, we heard from 10 current and former service members and employees who testified to flaws in the system for addressing complaints of discrimination, of harassment, and of retaliation. These were troubling allegations without doubt. But General Baldwin was not personally involved, and he has responded to each of the allegations both at hearing and subsequent to the hearing. A number of those opposed to General Baldwin work at the 129th Rescue Wing at Moffett Field. One indicated that they had been troubled by concerns at the 129th for over 8 years. 8 years, long before General Baldwin himself took charge. Clearly, there are concerns about the climate and systems for investigating the complaints both within the 129th and throughout the Guard that must be addressed. But these are problems that the General inherited, and he is now responsible for ensuring that his subordinates address these concerns. So what's the bottom line? The General has committed to working to address the years-long problems that have plagued the department, and I will commend all the members to the letter that I sent to General Baldwin on March the 16th, just several days ago, laying out both the complaints, his promised responses, and the actions that our Senate, in its oversight functions, intends to take to make sure that he does, in fact, follow up. The General has committed to address the years of wrongdoing and to try to change the culture within this department. Will he succeed? I'm confident we will, that he will. But at the same time, again, we've indicated to him in writing that the Senate will be keeping a close eye on him and the department to ensure that he follows through. I'm hopeful and confident, based upon our extensive inquiry, that General Baldwin is up to the job. At the very least, he knows well that this Senate will hold his feet to the fire. I'd urge an aye vote on the nomination and invite other members, of course, to comment. Thank you.
Is there debate or discussion at this time? Senator Correa.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, I rise also in strong support of Major General Baldwin. It's been my privilege to work with Major Baldwin, and I strongly believe he's the right person to take on these challenges. Let me say at the same time, I want to thank all of our National Guards women and men for their service to our state and our country. As all of you know, it's not unusual in these days to have our constituents that serve in the Guard to be overseas up to 4 times. With this expanded role of the National Guard also have come many management responsibilities. Major Baldwin is the third head of the National Guard that I have personally served with as member of this Senate. And I can tell you that Major Baldwin, in his short 11 months at the helm, has taken on these issues that Senator Steinberg has alluded to a minute ago. Today's vote does not signify the end of our discussion on these issues, but rather a continuum of our discussion on the challenges that the National Guard will be facing. And as chair of the Veterans Affairs Committee, I'll continue to work on these issues personally. And let me say that it's refreshing to see General Baldwin address these issues also on a personal basis, one-to-one, without the support of his staff. For these reasons, again, I strongly support General Baldwin, and I ask you to vote for him as well. Thank you very much.
Senator Liu.
Thank you, Mr. President, members. I rise to put on the record today why I am voting to confirm Major General Baldwin. But let me first start by thanking those who stepped forward to oppose his nomination. It took great courage for those to do so, and because of what those have done, Major General Baldwin has committed to a series of ongoing reforms and a series of continuing changes. And when you look at these allegations, several of them concern the time period when he was a colonel. And it is somewhat troubling that a lot of the abuses of the National Guard occurred when he was a colonel, but he was not in charge at the time. It is also somewhat troubling that when the federal investigators came down and asked for documents related to pay and compensation, he did not provide them. And certainly that was not his finest hour. But the question today is not what Colonel Baldwin did or did not do. To me, the only question we have today is, can Major General Baldwin lead the California Military Department and the California National Guard? And I believe that's a yes. I believe in the capacity of people to change, and I believe in what Major General Baldwin has done these last 11 months. He has instituted a series of very strong reforms, and that's going to generate some controversy. But when you look at the allegations against him as a Major General, none of it is actually directed at him. They're mostly related to things that predated him or things not within his control. And he has also committed to making a series of changes. He's committed to reform the state active duty system, committed to reform the state inspector general system, committed to look into specific individual cases. And when you look at what he has done and you think about what he did right before this, when he was deployed in Afghanistan, he served at the tip of the spear. He was there to execute the California National Guard's mission in a foreign country, in a combat zone, and he did that remarkably well. And so with his skill set, I believe he has the courage, the temperament, and really the vision to bring the California National Guard to one of the preeminent Guard units in America. Reserve the request, and I vote.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Dutton.
Yeah, Mr. President and members, I rise in support. And as a vice chairman of rules, I spent a great deal of time with the general. I looked at it from a perspective as myself. I was a former California Air National Guardsman. I took a look at, also talked to the people that had some complaints. I too found that most of these complaints weren't really directed towards the general as much as it was concerning the California Air National Guard organization itself. My concern is that the people of California deserve to have a California Air National Guard that they can be proud of. The men and women that serve in the California Air National Guard deserve to have a guard that they can be proud of. I feel, my gut tells me that General David Baldwin, he is the right person for the job at this time. It's going to take a lot of courage to clean it up. I am confident that he will do that. And as Senator Steinberg has indicated, we certainly can watch it and make sure that he's held accountable in the future if we don't like the direction it's happening. But it's very important. I think everybody in this chamber would agree. It's critical that we have a California Guard that we can be proud of and that the people can be proud of and that the men and women who serve in the Guard can be proud of. So with that, I would encourage the confirmation of General David Baldwin.
Thank you, Senator. Senator De Leon on this item.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Colleagues, I too also rise in support of the governor's appointment, Major General David S. Baldwin. A couple points I want to highlight. One is that the National Guard here in California is the largest of its kind in the nation. And we also have the largest deployment in the country when it comes to the men and women of California in Afghanistan, in Iraq, and other global hotspots. So what takes place in the California National Guard is very, very important to all of us, regardless of political party. One of the big points that I was educated on during this marathon Rules Committee session with regards to this very polemic and polarizing figure within the California National Guard is that we do have a California National Guard that systemically has deep-rooted problems. Sexual harassment, allegations of racial discrimination, cronyism, double-dipping. These are real allegations that have been put forth. And Major General Baldwin, if in fact he is to be confirmed today on this Senate floor, has, among many missions, one singular mission, first and foremost, and I believe that's why Governor Jerry Brown has put him forward, is to clean up the mess, and clean up the mess most immediately. That's why I also want to commend and recognize the Senate President Pro Tem, Darrell Steinberg, for managing this marathon session in a manner that was very respectful to the opponents, that allowed them to have their voices heard clearly and coherently, and he managed it in a manner that was quite exceptional, in my opinion. This is a very polarizing, polemic confirmation nonetheless. But when your mission is to go in and clean the house, obviously the arrows will be pointed towards you and behind you. And that is why, through the letter that we have here by the President Pro Tem, Mr. Darrell Steinberg, the Senate Veterans Committee here, chaired ably by Senator Luke Correa, will be playing a key role here in terms of transparency and accountability and making sure all points are, in fact, tackled head on. With that, Mr. Pro Tem, I respectfully request and want to echo our President Pro Tem's confirmation for Major General Baldwin.
Senator Gloria Negrete-McLeod.
I rise in support of Major Baldwin also. As someone who has been here almost 12 years and have carried numerous bills both in the Assembly and the Senate for the National Guard, before Mr. Baldwin was appointed, he came to my office, talked to me about the issues that were affecting the National Guard, and has come into my office numerous times since then. I am supporting his nomination.
Is there further debate or discussion? Further debate or discussion? If not, Senator Steinberg, you may close.
Thank you again, members. I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Alquist. Aye. Anderson. Aye. Berryhill. Aye. Blakesley. Aye. Calderon. Aye. Canella. Aye. Corbett. Aye. Correa. Aye. De Leon. Aye. DeSaulnier. Aye. Dutton. Aye. Emerson. Aye. Evans. Aye. Fuller. Aye. Gaines. Aye. Hancock. Aye. Harmon. Aye. Hernandez. Aye. Huff. Aye. Kehoe. Aye. LaMalfa. Leno. Aye. Ted Lieu. Aye. Carol Lieu. Lowenthal. Aye. Negrete McLeod. Aye. Padilla. Aye. Pavley. Aye. Price. Aye. Rubio. Aye. Runner. Sumidian. Aye. Steinberg. Aye. Strickland. Vargas. Aye. Walters. Aye. Wolk. Aye. Wright. Aye. Wyland. Yee. Yee. Aye.
Call the absent members.
LaMalfa. Carol Lieu. Runner. Strickland. Wyland.
Ayes 35, noes 0. The appointment is confirmed. Thank you, Mr. President Pro Tem. Thank you, members. That completes the items we have under Governor's appointments. That takes us to unfinished business. Senator Corbett, we have just one item. That is file item 16. Are you prepared to take that item up at this time?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. President.
And let's ask the Secretary to please read.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 66 by Senator Corbett relative to California Craft Brewery Month.
Thank you very much, members. You may remember this bill from just a few weeks ago. It is back here on concurrence because of the addition of co-authors and a technical amendment. I ask for your aye vote.
Is there debate or discussion? Members, is there any objection to substituting the previous unanimous roll call? If not, and without objection, ayes 35, noes 0. The Assembly amendments are concurred in. Members, we are returning to motions and resolutions at this time. Do we have items under motions and resolutions? Senator Correa?
For purposes of introduction.
For purposes of introduction.
The body can help me welcome Ms. Jennifer Muir, sitting on the back of the chambers of the Orange County Employees Association.
Happy to welcome your guests, Ms. Senator Kehoe, for what purpose? One moment, Senator Kehoe. If we could have quiet in the chambers, please. Senator Kehoe, for what purpose?
To request an adjournment in memory.
Please proceed, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. I wanted to inform you very sadly that a good friend of mine, a longtime San Diegan, Charles McCain, passed away on Saturday morning. He was an accomplished attorney and a long-time, 30-year Democratic activist, a loyal and committed volunteer, and a strong advocate for LGBT civil rights. He was among the first openly gay delegates to attend the National Democratic Convention in 1980, and went on to serve as a delegate in 3 more national conventions. He originally earned his undergraduate degree at Stanford and then graduated from UCLA Law. He retired a few years ago from the 4th District Court of Appeals in San Diego, and unfortunately was diagnosed with a terminal illness shortly thereafter. He, back in 1990, he wrote the lines that revamped the city redistricting and consolidated LGBT voters in Council District 3, which led to my election 3 years later. So I owe him a lot personally, and the gay community owes him a lot, as do Democrats around the state and around the county. On a side light, he was a passionate basketball player and actually traveled to Sydney to play in the gay games. and he is survived by his partner of 36 years, Bob McWilliams. They married in 2010, had been together many, many years before that. He will be missed by so many people. His services are pending, but I ask that we adjourn in his memory.
Senator Kehoe, thank you. Please share the sympathies of the State Senate and the thanks for the many years of public service in so many arenas. Senator Gloria Negrete-McLeod, for what purpose do you rise, Senator?
To adjourn in memory, Mr. President.
Please proceed.
Mr. President and members, I rise to adjourn in memory of Mrs. Dorothy Ingram, a longtime educator who became San Bernardino County's first black school teacher, who died Wednesday, March the 14th, at the age of 106. She attended San Bernardino Valley College, where she wrote the school's alma mater. In 1942, she began teaching at Mills School and later became principal. And in 1953, she became California's first black district superintendent. Ms. Ingram was an active member of St. Paul's AME Church and was known by many as a mentor and community icon. Ms. Ingram should be remembered for the lives she touched. She encouraged many to aspire to the stars while praying for the best and never giving up. She will be missed by the community. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Negrete-McLeod, and please share the condolences of the Senate as well as the thanks for many years of public service. Members, do we have any other items under motions and resolutions? Are there any other items under motions and resolutions? Senator Gaines, for what purpose do you rise, sir?
To speak on condition of the file.
Senator Gaines, on the condition of the file. Please proceed, sir.
Thank you. I've got some interesting information here I'd like to share with the Senate from John Cogan and Michael Boskin from the Hoover Institution. And when we take a look at the data from the 1980s to 2005, California's population grew by 10 million people, and its Medi-Cal recipients soared by 7 million. Tax filers paying income taxes rose by just 150,000 in that same time frame. We have 12% of the country's population and 33% of its welfare recipients. Unemployment is nearly at 11%. We're in third place. Nevada and Rhode Island are only two other states in the nation that have a higher unemployment rate. General fund spending has exceeded revenue for 9 of the last 10 years. This is totally predictable in light of the failed policies California has pursued in past decades. This list says to me that California is desperate for policies that will help build a vibrant economy. Instead, we're getting more rules, more regulations, and calls for higher taxes. Winston Churchill said, trying to tax your way to prosperity is like standing in a bucket and pulling on the handle. California's back is aching from pulling on that bucket so long. It's time to let the handle go. We need to deliver a pro-jobs, pro-growth environment in the state, and we cannot pile on even higher taxes when our economy is half dead. California deserves prosperity. We can't give it as a gift, but we can, with the wrong policies, take it away. Let's work to have California's future as bright as its past. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Gaines. Members, do we have any other items on condition of the file? Motions and resolutions. Senator Huff, for what purpose, sir?
For announcement, Republican caucus 305 immediately following session.
Members, there will be a Republican caucus in room 305 immediately upon the recess of the session. And also, if I may announce, members, we will reconvene the Senate Environmental Quality Committee in room 112 at 2:55 so that members who have been absent will be able to add on. Are there any other announcements at this time? Any other items under motions and resolutions? If there is no other business, Senator Steinberg, the desk is clear. One moment, Senator.
Members, Mr. President, The Senate will actually reconvene at about 3:45. Remember, we will walk over together for the Chief Justice's State of the Judiciary address. And then following that, I know there's a reception. Our next session itself will be Thursday morning at 9 a.m.
Thank you, Senator Steinberg. Members, once again, the Senate will reconvene at 3:45 for purposes of attending the State of the Judiciary. The adjournment motion will be made at 4 p.m., and we will reconvene Thursday at 9 a.m. Without objection, the Senate stands in recess.